You probably have a secret graveyard hidden on your computer right now, a dusty, forgotten folder filled with half-finished projects and completely discarded ideas, outlines for brilliant books you haven't written, and expensive domain names you bought at 2 in the morning. Ideas for a completely new life that you have meticulously planned but never actually started. And every time you look at that folder, you feel the crushing weight of your own unlived life. Growing up, you were probably told by teachers and parents that you were exceptionally smart. Maybe you were labeled as a gifted kid, highly creative, or a natural intellectual. People looked at you and said the most dangerous words a child can ever hear. They told you that you have so much potential. But now, years later, you look at your life and you feel entirely stuck. You watch people who are objectively less talented than you pass you by every single day. They are building businesses, releasing art, and moving forward with their lives with incredible speed, while you are sitting on the sidelines, paralyzed by the endless noise of your own mind. Society has a very harsh, unforgiving diagnosis for this behavior. They simply call it laziness. They label you as just a dreamer who refuses to put in the hard work to succeed. And after hearing that narrative enough times, you slowly start to believe it. You look at your track record of quitting, and you start to hate yourself for being so broken. But today I want to offer you a completely different, much more scientific diagnosis. You are not lazy, and you certainly do not lack discipline or willpower. You are suffering from a highly specific, very common psychological trap. You have developed a biological addiction to your own potential. To understand why you do this, we have to look closely at how your brain processes reality. Think of your potential exactly like an uncashed winning lottery ticket. As long as that ticket is sitting safely in your pocket, it represents $1 million. It is flawless, it is perfect, and it is full of beautiful promise. In your imagination, that business idea you have makes you wildly successful and highly respected. As long as it remains just an idea in your head, it cannot be criticized by anyone. It is completely safe from the messy, disappointing, and painful reality of the real world. But the exact moment you sit down at your desk to actually do the work, the illusion shatters. The moment you write the first draft, it is no longer perfect or pristine. It is suddenly real, and it is probably a little bit flawed and entirely average. In quantum physics, this concept is known as the collapsing of the wave function. Infinite beautiful possibilities suddenly collapse into one very difficult, highly demanding reality. And for your specific brain, that collapse feels like a literal physical threat. As we have discussed in our previous conversations, your brain is a prediction machine. It constantly draws an internal baseline of your own worth and your own expected competence. Because you have been told your whole life that you are talented, your baseline is set extremely high. Your brain expects you to be brilliant and flawless at absolutely everything you touch. So when you try to execute an idea and it does not look brilliant immediately, a biological alarm goes off. This vertical gap between your high expectation and the messy reality is called a prediction error. The external reality of your rough draft is not matching your high internal baseline of genius. When this happens, your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, instantly lights up. It perceives this normal, healthy learning process not as growth, but as a severe threat to your identity. If the work is bad, then your brain whispers that maybe you are not a genius after all. Your subconscious starts to panic, telling you that maybe you are just a fraud. To protect you from that devastating thought, your brain hits the emergency brake. It triggers a massive, overwhelming wave of psychological resistance. It suddenly makes you feel impossibly tired, lethargic, and completely unable to focus. It convinces your logical mind that you just need to do a little more research before you can officially begin, or it violently distracts you with a shiny, brand new idea that feels much easier to start. By forcing you to quit, your brain successfully protects the uncashed lottery ticket. It keeps your potential completely intact, safe from the harsh judgment of the outside world. But the trap actually goes much deeper and gets much darker than just fear. There is a powerful chemical component to your paralysis that you simply cannot ignore. When you sit in your room and imagine how amazing your new project will be, your brain releases dopamine. You get the physiological reward of success without actually doing any of the difficult work. Your nervous system literally cannot tell the difference between a real victory and an imagined one. Buying a new domain name gives you the exact same dopamine spike as launching a real profitable business. Watching a 3-hour tutorial on video editing feels just as productive as actually editing a video. So your brain effectively asks a very logical, strictly biological question. Why would we endure months of painful, tedious work when we already received the chemical reward? You are not addicted to failure, and you are not inherently afraid of success. You are addicted to the effortless, frictionless dopamine of the planning phase. But you already know the ultimate cost of this dangerous, repeating cycle. Potential is an incredibly comfortable place to hide, but it is a terrible place to live. It keeps you perfectly safe, but it keeps your soul entirely starving for real progress. So how do we actually break this cycle and force the brain to move forward? We cannot rely on willpower, because willpower is just a temporary fight against your own biology. Instead, we have to change the rules of the game using a concept called the Incompetence Window. Right now, your brain demands absolute perfection on the very first try, which causes the paralysis. We need to deliberately lower that baseline to bypass your amygdala and your fear response entirely. Before you sit down to work on your project today, you are going to write a strict contract with yourself. You will physically write down that for the next hour, your only goal is to create something terrible. This sounds almost too simple, but neurologically, it functions as a master key for the talented brain. By making a bad outcome the actual goal, you completely neutralize the prediction error. The amygdala immediately goes to sleep because you literally cannot fail at writing garbage. Your brain stops seeing the work as a threat to your identity, and the heavy resistance lifts. Second, you must consciously learn to separate the architect from the builder. The architect is the part of your mind that plans, dreams, analyzes, and harshly judges everything you do. The builder is the quiet part of you that simply lays the bricks, one by one. Talented people try to do both at the exact same time, which is a guaranteed recipe for complete paralysis. When you are in the building phase, the architect is simply not allowed in the room. You just lay the bricks, no matter how crooked or ugly they might be. You can invite the architect back tomorrow to fix the wall, but today your only job is to build. I know how deeply frustrating it is to feel trapped inside the cage of your own mind, to know exactly how much you have to offer the world, but to feel physically blocked from giving it. But you must remember that your paralysis is not a moral failing or a sign of weakness. It is just a miscalibrated protection mechanism perfectly designed to keep your ego safe. You have been carrying the heavy, exhausting burden of your own potential for a very long time. It is time to trade the safety of perfection for the beautiful, messy reality of being a beginner. Start small today, just lay one crooked brick, and I will see you in the next one. Society tells you that if you have half-finished projects and abandoned hobbies, you are just lazy. You aren't lazy. You are suffering from a biological addiction to potential, and your brain is hooked on the dopamine of the planning phase. When you sit down to execute, the work is hard and flawed, which your amygdala perceives as a threat to your identity, making you quit. You aren't afraid of hard work. Your brain is just protecting the illusion of your perfection. To break the cycle, you must consciously lower your baseline. Give yourself permission to make something terrible and watch the paralysis disappear